Here we go. Oh my God. Yo, what's going on, Knoxat fam? My name is Joe Yim, aka Mighty Joe Yim, and welcome back for another cooking video. The thing that we're making today was the origin of me starting to cook barbecue since I was, I think, 12 or 13 when I first did this. The very first barbecue item that I've ever made was beer can chicken. And I thought that as we got this new smoker and we're trying to cook multiple things on it, that beer can chicken or just cooking chicken in general would be a great idea. And also, I think it's just one of those things that I've been wanting to do because I haven't done a beer can chicken in quite a while. Even though every single time I made, it's never disappointed me, but there are certain things that I find kind of, I don't know, wrong about it, other than the fact that we're sticking a beer can up the chicken's butthole. I also feel like when it comes to barbecue, there are a lot of these kind of like barbecue myths or things that we always do just because, you know, it works. But sometimes when you sit back and you think about the method of what you're doing, sometimes it's not necessarily as bad, but I feel like there are better ways to do it. So in today's video, we're not only going to go back and do a traditional beer can chicken, I'm also gonna do a second beer can chicken that this idea that I've been playing around for a while, at least in my head. As we prep the second one, I'm gonna be talking about why I'm choosing to do certain things just based off of, I wanna say, logic. With all that being said, let's get to prep. But before we start prepping the chicken, the one thing I wanna make is a rub that I specifically like making for chicken. Add some dried oregano, dried thyme, black pepper, granulated garlic, cayenne, and then the bulk of this rub is going to be, this one's a smoked paprika, but whatever paprika you got should work just fine. I'm going to give this a good mix. Make sure all those clumps of paprika are all broken up. It's a little bit easier to see all of the dry herbs in the black pepper, but the one thing that's going to be a little bit harder to see, you want to make sure that you mix thoroughly, is the cayenne in there. So that is what the rub is looking like. I like using this for chicken and especially lamb. I really like this with lamb. There's other things that you can add in here that would work. I think dried rosemary, crushed bay leaves would also be really nice. In most cases with rubs that have like super fine powders like this, where majority of it is this kind of fine powder, like this smoked paprika, I won't put salt in there. Because of the weight of the salt, it will start to separate itself from the other finer ingredient, which is why you always have to kind of be swirling the rub around and stuff like that. So what I'll generally do is make sure I season everything by hand first to make sure I can cover every inch of whatever I'm cooking with the salt, and then afterwards come through with the finer rub, because now I can cover the entire thing without worrying about it being under seasoned. You know, you guys can do whatever you feel like. It's definitely more convenient when the salt is in there. You just have to remember to mix it up every single time you use it. All right, so we got our chicken here, and this is a 3 1/4 pound chicken. Generally when I'm trying to do chickens, I don't like getting anything that's too large. I don't know, they just don't taste as good. First version of the beer can chicken, the original one, we don't really have to do too much to this. We flip it, kind of like where the drumsticks are, we gotta have this extra fat on the edges. So we'll take off that bit at least. Okay, so that's pretty much it. At this point is when I'm coming in with the salt. Make sure we get every bit of seasoning on here as possible, especially inside the wing and all that kind of stuff. We just want to see seasoning everywhere. If your chicken is a little dry on the surface, for this purposes, for a slather, I personally just like to use a little bit of oil on top. That way it helps kind of crisp the skin a little bit. Now we got to rub. So give this a nice mix. Now that we've applied all the seasoning, we can be really generous. It's just another way to kind of control all your seasoning as you go, and as you continue to practice the same method over and over again, you just get better at making sure all your food is consistent. And then get a little bit extra in the cavity, because why not? We keep having these bald spots because the more we kind of move this chicken and touch it, like there's my fingerprint right there. We want to do this fairly quickly and try to do it all in one even piece. We're going to pin these wings back. I'm sure you guys have seen this. You're going to take this wing and spin it like this, so it's a little bit nice and tight right here, and not super loose like this where we have a tendency that this could dry out or even burn. So the next portion of this beer can chicken obviously is the beer can. As you guys can see from this method, this is one of the reasons why I want to change it up just a little bit. A lot of seasoning just ended up on my hands, and even looking at this chicken right here, like there are spots all over it that all that seasoning came off of. So just first off, what we'll do is the same as we did on that first one. We're gonna cut off that the excess fat, but we are going to be saving this. At this point, people are gonna get upset because they're gonna be like, that's not beer can chicken. We're gonna actually spatchcock this chicken. And what does it mean to spatchcock? It means to take out that spine of the chicken just so that we can kind of lay it flat. I wouldn't recommend doing it with a boning knife just because it's a little bit thinner. Good chef's knives will work, or a good pair of shears. So that's where we're gonna be using. I like going from the neck and go all the way down. That way it's a little bit easier because you can kind of see where to start your cut just by where the spine is right here. And we want to finish it by where this, kind of where that chicken butt is right there. Right. Next, in order to lay it flatter, we're going to flip it so it's breast side up, and what we want to do is we're going to push down with our heel right here and kind of crack the breast plate right here just so it lays a little flatter. So now we got our legs, we got our thighs, we got our wings, we got everything kind of splayed out. All right, so a couple things that I like about this method better. Because it is a little bit flatter and the entire, like the level of the chicken itself is on the same plane. While if you are on a beer can chicken and you're up there like that, you got your breast and your wings up top that are going to be cooking a little bit quicker. And especially the wings up top being really small, they kind of tend to overcook a little bit. Number two is now we can get as much even seasoning on here, both the inside and the outside, without just trying to like randomly sprinkle in a little bit of seasoning into the cavity. I'm going to actually start on the cavity first. From here, you can get seasoning evenly all the way across, and it just makes me feel a lot better. Now we're going with our seasoning nice and even all the way across, just like we did on the last one. Now we're gonna flip it over to our breast side up. But before we do that, wire rack. This is gonna go on top here. Again, we're going with the salt. This is my favorite part. Now as we go with the seasoning, once we apply it, we don't have to touch it again, which means we can get seasoning that looks even all the way across. Take a look at this chicken now. It's fully seasoned. I don't have to touch it. I don't have to mess with it. I don't have to do anything with it. But you might say, okay, well, how is this beer can chicken then? Next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna take this wire rack and we're gonna put it on top of a tray like this. What is this gonna accomplish? The next thing that we're gonna do is we're going to take our beer and we're gonna pour it inside of here to have the beer still hopefully be more incorporated in this chicken than the traditional method. If you just have this beer can which has this little hole up top and you put the chicken straight on top of here and the only hole that the chicken has is going straight up the cavity, there's no way that this beer is actually incorporating itself into the chicken. Now I've seen other people put holes on the side. I know all that, I've seen all that, but I just feel like it's way less efficient. If we're saying that evaporating beer incorporates itself into the chicken, this method makes way more sense than the traditional one where it goes straight up the cavity. And also with this, we can collect all the chicken drippings. We're gonna put the fat that we cut off and we're gonna put it in here so we can render out some extra chicken fat. We can mix it with the beer and we can make a sauce at the bottom of this pan too as we collect everything. I will say though, the one thing, and I think this is the reason why this kind of cooking method has worked so well and why it always comes out pretty dang good. I think the fact that you put a metal can on the inside of the chicken, so as the liquid warms up and the can itself gets hot, you're starting to cook this chicken from the outside and from the inside. But I also feel like that's why the spatchcock makes sense too, because you're opening the whole thing up. So you are basically cooking from the inside that we split open and the outside. Original version versus new version, and seeing, you know, which one ultimately is better and worth your time. All right, so let's get our fire started and get these chickens on. Ooh, look at this one. That'll do it. Alright guys, so here's the setup. I put the beer can chicken closest to the door because I felt like to give this the best chance, we need to be in like the slightly cooler spot. I also have the breast in the back because I didn't want that to overcook, and I wanted the thighs to be a little bit closer to the fire because we really want to make sure that that's cooked well enough. And also I think if we do it carefully, the breast will be a little bit more tender if we can control the temps. Now we got the spatchcock one in the back. I put the excess fat that we cut up that's inside the pan, as well as the spine of the chicken we put in there too. And now the beer can part of this beer can chicken. All right, so we're gonna close the door and we're gonna keep this thing rocking around 285, 300. I started this timer a little bit late, so a little over 3 hours is the total cook time right here. Let's take a look at these chickens. Alright guys, so I was going to show you the actual temps on this, but as I was filming and doing all this stuff, the internal temps did drop, so I don't want to give you anything misleading. What I'm looking for are for the thighs, if possible, without letting the breast go too far. I would like the thighs to be around 180 to 185 because it'll be a little bit more tender. And then the breasts, I want them to be, I would say, around 160 to 170. It's because the breasts and the wings are a little bit higher in this case right here compared to the thighs. These are roughly around mid 170, and these were creeping up to mid 170s to 180. So technically it's cooked evenly, but in what I'm looking for, this is slightly overcooked and this is a little bit undercooked, but it's fully done. So now as we go to our spatchcock chicken, this one was a little bit more even, and I was thinking I should have probably turned it to have the thighs and the legs be closer to the fire and have the breast be away, but with carryover, I think it should be where exactly I want it to be. So what we're gonna do next is get these pulled off as quickly as you can and get them to rest so they don't end up overcooking even more, especially the one that's sitting on the can right now. And then we're gonna take those drippings from the spatchcock chicken and make ourselves a little bit of sauce. This is the pan that we had sitting underneath that spatchcock chicken, and most of this is beer, but you can see we got quite a bit of drippings on the side, and then you can see like on the edges right here, we got a lot of good, I wouldn't necessarily say call it fond, but same type of idea. So we want to make sure we scrape those down because we want to make sure we get that into the sauce. Alright, so I think we did a pretty good job of getting all the edges kind of scraped down. Majority of this right now is still that beer. I want it to have a little bit more chickeny flavor. I'm gonna add a little bit of chicken stock to this to kind of bring that chicken flavor back into it. But when you buy the chicken stock, try to find low sodium or no sodium at all. As we reduce this down, we don't want this to become super salty. So like, I would love to put a little bit of thyme in here. I think that would be great. We don't got thyme, but we got some garlic cloves, so I'm gonna put 1 garlic clove in there. All right, we're gonna let this reduce, and I'll come back to you guys when we're done. This has been going on for, I wanna say 15 minutes or so. It tastes really good, and it's been reduced by, I wanna say more than half, but it definitely does need a little bit of salt, and we're gonna add a little bit of butter to this as well. Now, I use salted butter. I know people say you shouldn't when you're cooking, whatever, but we're gonna add salt anyway. So, I'm just gonna make sure we mix this through. Yeah, let's take a taste. Ooh, that's good. Still needs a little bit of salt. Oh yeah, that's it right there. So we're gonna take this, we're gonna strain it, we're gonna cut the chicken, and let's get ready to eat. So we got our 2 chickens right here. Let's do the traditional way first. It's nice and moist, but woo! Yeah. It's plenty tender, that's for sure. Pull off these wings and they just come right off. All right, now with the breast, we want to find where that breastbone is, where it's split. Put down the breastbone here. Peel it a little bit so that you get the chicken breast and also the tender underneath it, and you just want to pull it back just a little bit. Now once you can find where it's kind of going, just take your knife and just kind of nick it a little bit, just so you're not shredding anything. And now we got our clean chicken breast right there. Let's split the drum and the thigh. Now we are to the Frankenstein beer can chicken. I'm just going to split this straight down the middle. Just break it. As you can see from the color of it, it's so much darker. The seasoning is so much more even all the way across. All right guys, so we got our breast, the wings, thighs from the 2, and the drums from both of them. Now, the only thing I'm gonna add, just because I want to, I'm gonna put a little bit of lemon juice on all of it with all that extra spice that we added, and with the butter that we put in the sauce. Having a little bit of acidity is nice. Let's just go through one at a time and try them. The one that was on the traditional beer can chicken, and this is something that I predicted earlier on, it just sits there longer at like a higher elevation, so it just cooks a little bit more. It still tastes good. It tastes charred, but it's a little dry as well. The wings that were on the Spatchcock one, the skin is nice and tight. I wouldn't call it charred. I would say it's like a little bit crispy instead of it's just kind of overcooked. All right, now let's try it with that sauce. Oh yeah, I don't know why I've never done this before, but highly, highly recommend it. All right, the next thing that we're gonna test is the chicken breast. We got some skin, we got the chicken breast, and we got the tender right underneath my thumb right there. All right, again, we got the skin, we got the breast, we got the tender right underneath my thumb. Oh, automatically, so much better. I'm kind of surprised that it made that much of a difference. Like, this one is so much better. All right, next, the chicken thighs. Now, I think, honestly, I think both of these are gonna be fantastic. Look at that, clean bite. Very good. All right, now the thigh bite from the Spatchcock one. That thigh is significantly better than that one. And this one is still good. I'm blown away. I don't know why that one's so much better. I don't know if it's because we're able to get seasoning both on top and bottom, and I'm able to kind of get that. There's only so much seasoning that you can get on the inside of that cavity unless you open it up, and that's it right there. And honestly, I'm not just saying this just because, well, I don't know. This could be something just because it's on the back of my mind, but this thigh, I feel like there is a little bit more of that bitter, hoppy flavor that we're getting. Kind of what I'm looking for that beer can chicken flavor. Last taste test on these drumsticks. It's not bad, but honestly, out of all the pieces that we had, the least flavorful. I'm kind of surprised by that. Is it because we had the drums away from the fire? I don't know. Maybe I didn't put enough salt on the drumsticks. I'm not sure. Let's go with the drum and the Spatchcock. Definitely a little more flavor. The skin on this one was way more rubbery than the skin on this one. I wouldn't say it's significantly more moist, but the texture of the drumstick on this one is a little more grainy, a little more mushy, while this one actually has a nice texture to it. Like, you can bite through it and it starts to shred, instead of this one, it kind of mushes a little bit. For the ultimate bite, I gotta go with this thigh and dunk it in this sauce. I've been neglecting the sauce. And a little bit of lemon on that thigh. Here we go. Oh my God. Look at that bite right there. That is a perfect bite out of a chicken thigh. All right guys, so that is my traditional beer can chicken versus my beer can chicken experiment. I would say the problem with this experiment that we did today was the fact that there was too many elements that were changed. It wasn't just beer can chicken versus spatchcocking it. Which version is better? It was the element of that, and then there was a question of, do I taste any beer in the beer can chicken version opposed to this one? And then there is also the, well, I like the spatchcock better because we put a pan underneath it to collect drippings and made a sauce with it. While this one, I said you could put a bowl underneath it, but it would kind of be a little clumsy and probably wouldn't work very well. So I guess this is one of the things where I wouldn't say this was a really focused experiment. It was really a which entire dish is better. And in this situation, the spatchcock with the beer underneath it, making the sauce from it, was 100% better than the traditional beer can chicken. The evolution of how you do things is really important, that you don't just do something just because you hear a bunch of people say it. Most of the time, I would say what people say is true because it's been done over and over and over again. But at the same time, there are certain things that just don't make sense. Like putting a beer can inside of a carcass of a chicken and expecting to infuse into the entire chicken. It just doesn't make sense. And even though this way logically makes more sense to incorporate more beer flavor into it, other than one part of the chicken, I didn't find a noticeable difference. So the next time I make beer can chicken, next question I'm going to ask myself, is the beer can flavor essential to the dish? Because if not, then might as well just put in the sauce instead of trying to overly complicate it. So with all that being said, I thought this was a really fun experiment. I feel like I learned a lot about just cooking chickens in different ways. I learned a lot by watching the skin and how my smoker cooks. I learned, what components of something like this I need more practice on. A lot of stuff going on, and I feel like I need some time to sit down to really pinpoint what are the biggest lessons that I am taking away from this entire thing. All right, guys, so that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed this entire whatever we just did today. I had a lot of fun doing it and playing around with stuff. But if you guys like these kind of abstract versions of traditional proteins that we usually make, I'm gonna leave 2 videos up for you guys to check out. They're older videos, but I personally think are probably 2 of my favorite dishes that I've made that a lot of people didn't watch. Again, if you have any suggestions for me, leave them in the comments down below. And if you like this video, please make sure to like, subscribe, share this video with your friends, and I'll see you guys in the next one.